It is Thursday, December 17th. This is Jaguars Happy Hour. And now, a guy who's got a locker set up at several area bonos, J.P. Shadrick.
The worst places to have one. Welcome in, Jaguars Happy Hour. And I'm J.P. Shadrick. Jeff Lageman coming along shortly. We've got a busy program for you, getting ready for Week 15. The Jaguars and the Baltimore Ravens on the Inner Harbor in Baltimore, Maryland at M&T Bank Stadium. Gardner Minshew gets the start for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Lamar Jackson gets the start for the Baltimore Ravens. We'll see what kind of challenge the defense has this week. Tony Boselli joins us at 4:30 today. And then we'll hear from head coach Doug Marrone on the Jaguars Radio Network with the Doug Marrone Show at 5 o'clock sharp this afternoon. Jeff Lageman with us now. Good afternoon, Jeff.
Good morning, JP. Or should I say good afternoon for its happy hour, right? I was going to say, I got a margarita. Well, the problem, I got confused because I have a Bloody Mary right here. No, I'm just kidding.
That's what happens when you lose 12 in a row, right? Yeah. 12 in a row. So 12 straight losses now for the Jags. It's not getting any easier, obviously, after last week's loss. And now the Jaguars have a couple players on the reserve COVID-19 list this week. Ben Barch added, Trey Herndon, Jaguars cornerback, added. There was an earlier scare this year on the practice squad where a lot of guys were out due to contact tracing and all that. But two added to the list today, and guys that contribute to the Jaguars starters.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think the Jaguars have been really good so far at trying to minimize the damage that COVID has had, and that's a huge credit to Doug Marrone, the staff, and then also the players. You've had a little bit of an issue with the coaching staff, and that you had 2 weeks to where it affected who was able to coach during the week and then also for game day. But overall, I think they've done a very good job, and as long as they can kind of finish it out, because there was widespread speculation that a lot of teams that would be out of contention, like the Jaguars, would have major COVID issues at the end of the season, and that hasn't been the case. So credit to the players, credit to the coaches for keeping it together.
3 weeks to go, 3 games to go, a little over 2 weeks of real time left, and let's get to the finish line of this 2020 campaign. The biggest issue this week for the Jacksonville Jaguars, well, the Baltimore Ravens offense. This is a Ravens team that must win. They are in must-win mode down the stretch to stay in the AFC playoff picture. They're right around, hovering around the cut line for the playoffs as we speak. They got a big win on Monday night, and it starts with quarterback Lamar Jackson. Today, we heard from Jaguars linebacker Myles Jack about the challenge ahead with the quarterback.
Really just kind of got to just deal with them and hope he decides to throw instead of run. You know what I mean? And even when he throws, he can still make really good passes. So, I mean, he's a tough guy. He's very talented. MVP. Every time you turn on Madden, you see him. So, I mean, he's the real deal, you know, and he's definitely going to be a challenge for us this week. I'm excited to finally play against him in real life and just watching him do his thing in college. And we went up to the preseason and played him when he was young, but I'm definitely excited to see it in person and play against him.
Well, he's going to get a first-hand look Sunday at 1 o'clock, Logs. Lamar Jackson, the defending MVP in the National Football League.
I don't know if I would use the term excited to get ready to face Lamar Jackson if I'm a linebacker, but nonetheless, you talked about how the Ravens are hovering right around the playoff mark as far as being in contention, and right now they're the 8th seed in the AFC, and obviously the top 7 are going to be in the playoffs, and ahead of them they have, I believe it's Cleveland, Miami, and who is the other team? I forget, but this is a must-win situation for the Ravens. So look, if you want to get a little taste of playoff football for a football team that's lost 12 consecutive, well, here you go. You're going to get it. And the quarterback is amazing. I haven't watched a Monday night football game in its entirety all year. It seems that my eyes start to get a little heavy, and then I have to go to sleep, and I end up DVRing it, and I watch it the next day if it's worth watching. But I couldn't leave the TV set. on Monday night. I mean, that was one of the best football games that I've seen all year, the game between Cleveland and Baltimore. And a huge part of that was Lamar Jackson, who left the game with cramps. And then he goes to the locker room for a period of time. And obviously he had been dealing with some COVID issues in the weeks prior, had to have some type of impact on him on Monday night. Well, he comes back after McSorley ends up getting an injured knee and leads the Ravens back to victory. I mean, it was unbelievable. He's an amazing talent. And Miles Jack and Joe Schobert, JP, have arguably the biggest challenges for anybody in this game, because when you face Lamar Jackson, the read option pass, all of these gadgets that you have with a quarterback who has running ability, it stresses the linebackers like no other formation or no other offensive system can. And it's going to be a tough challenge for the Jaguars. And Miles Jack, who used that term excited, man, I tell you what, I'm glad he is, because if it were me, I'd be sitting there going, how in the hell are we going to stop this guy?
Right, because if he pulls it out of the running back's belly, it's not like it takes him a while to get going. He's off in a hurry. And even if you have gaps filled, he can make a guy miss in a gap, and all of a sudden he's running for 40 yards.
Yeah, and playing defense is all about gaps, but that's for people that are normal. Lamar Jackson is not normal. And I never thought I would say that, but for years of watching Michael Vick, I said to myself, the league will never see another player like Michael Vick. I just didn't think it was possible, because Michael Vick was so fast, so explosive, so electric. And all of a sudden, here comes Lamar Jackson along, and he's shattering what Michael Vick had done as far as the numbers go. So, I mean, it truly is amazing to watch him. And you're right, and that gaps necessarily don't matter, because you can be in the right gaps, and then all of a sudden he ends up stressing somebody because of his speed. But also, when you rush the quarterback and you've got everybody kind of trying to keep him in the pocket, and you can have everybody essentially go down the middle on an offensive lineman and say, okay, we're just going to keep him in the pocket. We're going to have responsible rush lanes. We're going to have a balanced rush. And it doesn't matter, because he just needs just an instant to escape up into the pocket, outside the pocket, or whatever he wants to do. And then he's off to the races. And he is it's amazing. Last year they shattered the NFL record by over 100 yards of rushing in a season. And they just continue to pile up records. Now, look, the way that you can beat a Lamar Jackson is to find a way to put them in a position to where they have to throw the football, to where they're playing from behind. But the Jaguars don't have that kind of offense right now. They're going back to a quarterback that hasn't played in, what is it, like 5, 6, 7 weeks or something like that. So that's a tall task to ask a Gardner Minshew led offense.
We'll get to the Jags offense and the matchup coming up in a bit. And we're mentioning Lamar Jackson. If you're watching on Jaguars.com or social media, you're seeing a lot of run game video for the Ravens, including Lamar, but also Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. Mark Ingram is still there, though he's not putting up the huge yardage that he has in his past. He's still a big piece of what they do there. But Edwards and Dobbins, they have a stable of running backs back there, Logs, that can get the job done too.
Well, Edwards is averaging 5 yards a carry. Dobbins is averaging 5.3 yards a carry. And so it's not like they're slouches. I mean, it's not exactly the Cleveland Browns. Okay, it's not quite as good as the Cleveland Browns as far as the running back tandem, but they're really good. But the difference here is that the quarterback is just marvelous. I mean, Lamar Jackson is the 10th leading rusher in the National Football League. I mean, think about that. A quarterback is the 10th leading rusher in the National Football League, and he's averaging like 6.3 yards a carry? Oh, I mean, the numbers are tremendous, and the challenge is tremendous. And I don't know if there's anything that has stopped him this year, with the exception of a potent offense on the other side of the ball.
Now, for the Jaguars' perspective, we mentioned Schobert and Jack and the challenge they have, but just in general, this has been for weeks a depleted group. Injuries throughout the season have piled up, and now you've got backups to backups in a lot of places out there, a lot of youth on the field right now, and that's just the way it's been for the Jaguars defense. That has to be a challenge, Logs, when you're changing guys weekly, especially like in the secondary, for example. I mean, you got so many guys that have played back there this year. It changes every week.
Yeah, the numbers, me and you were talking before we came on here, and you were talking about how many players the Jaguars team has used this year, which is, I think, the highest in the National Football League. But if you want to break it down, for example, by position groups, the defensive backfield for the Jaguars, and focusing in on the 4 positions, which are the 2 corner spots and the 2 safety spots, you're in a 12-game losing streak, and then you had the first game of the year, so you've got 13 games. You've had 10 different lineups, 10 different combinations. And I'm not talking about, I'm talking about, look, if you had the same combination in week 13 that you had in week 1, that doesn't count as 2, that's 1. There's been 10 different lineups in the secondary alone for the Jaguars this year. That's an amazing, incredible number, and it's hard to have consistency. So you kind of roll that into, okay, well, we've also played 3 quarterbacks. We've also had issues at the defensive line position. We've had to change out some issues with the offensive line, with Linder being hurt and A.J. Cann being hurt. I mean, that's a lot of change, and it's hard to have success when you have that much change. But to go back to what were you talking about with the challenge of the linebackers, it's interesting how you're facing a running quarterback can be so challenging because it's a numbers game. And a lot of people don't look at it from that perspective. But if you do, I think it helps you understand a little bit. Typically, when you're trying to stop an offense, and let's just say that we're playing base defense against a based offense, and you hear people talk about, well, they played an 8-man front on defense to help stop the run. Well, you have an 8-man front because the offense with their regular personnel typically has 7 blockers, and that's 5 offensive linemen, a tight end, and a fullback. There's your 7, okay? Well, your 8, you have 4 up front, and then you got the 3 linebackers, and then you got a safety coming up. So you outnumber the offense, and so it gives you a little bit of advantage. But the offense with a running quarterback, all of a sudden now the tailback also becomes a blocker. So if you're playing an 8-man front on defense and the quarterback can run the football and the tailback can block, well, now you're playing a run fortified front, but they now also have 8 blockers to try to block your guys. So it's much more difficult facing a team that has a running quarterback because of the numbers of it. And then also then you add in the fact that, okay, this quarterback can fake it to the running back. Who do I follow? There was a perfect example, JP, that we're going to show tonight on Jaguars All Access, a little cheap plug, and that they faced the Cowboys 2 weeks ago, and Van Der Esch, the linebacker of the Dallas Cowboys, thank you very much, Joe, and Van Der Esch bites on the run fake to the running back, and he's chasing the running back, and he's like 10 yards away, and Lamar Jackson is running up the field, and he's 10 yards down the field, and Van Der Esch still doesn't know that the running back doesn't have it. And then another play when Lamar Jackson sticks it into the stomach of the running back, the linebackers suck up, the safeties suck up, and then they're worried about the running back, they're worried about Lamar Jackson carrying the ball, and all of a sudden he pops it back out of there, and then he throws it to his wide receiver or tight end for a 20-yard completion. So an incredibly challenging game with a quarterback who has mobility and also an arm.
Difficult for the linebackers, the defensive linemen, also difficult for the CBS camera crew as well. We'll see if they can follow those guys with all the fakes in the backfield in the run option game. Let's come back in a moment, and hey, we'll get on to the Jaguars offense. Gardner Minshew is back in the starting lineup for the first time since week 7. Coming up at 4:30, Tony Boselli joins us on the program. And then at 5 o'clock, the Doug Marrone Show ahead of the Week 15 matchup, the Ravens and the Jaguars in Baltimore. And we're off and running. It's Jaguars Happy Hour on the Jaguars Digital Network.
Hi, I'm Tito Beverage, founder and master distiller at Tito's Handmade Vodka. In 1997, we became the first micro distillery in the state of Texas, and we're still making the same smooth stuff after all these years. We're still cooking in a pot still, working with our dogs by our sides, having fun and tasting batches, and I'm still wearing the same hat even after all these years. Head over to Tito'sVodka.com to learn more about what else we're doing the same. Cheers. 80 proof Tito's Handmade Vodka, distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. Tito'sVodka.com.
Headquartered right here in Jacksonville, the CSI Companies is one of the fastest growing staffing firms in the nation. As a proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars, CSI knows how important it is to find the right people for your team. See why some of Jacksonville's top companies choose CSI for their staffing needs. Visit thecsicompanies.com or call 800-582-0828 today. That's 800-582-0828 for the CSI Companies.
The best thing about working at Fair & Farah is all of the employees. We all work together. It's extremely enjoyable to come to work every day.
There's a common cause or goal. No matter what your job is, we're all there for the client.
We are dedicated to our clients 100%. We do everything it takes to maximize the value of their claims.
Fair & Fair is really the Farah family. When they choose us, they choose a family to fight for them and to protect them and to make sure that they're in a good place and that they have somebody on their side.
Farah & Farah, here for you, here for good. Jacksonville.
At ViStar, we believe in better convenience, so members can bank any way they want, whether it's at a branch, on a mobile device, or at one of more than 20,000 fee-free ATMs across North America. We believe that people have better things to do with their time. If you believe that convenience is better, join ViStar. We never forget that it's your money. All loans subject to approval, insured by NCUA.
Committed to the team, committed to the mission. At Navy Mutual, we're committed to providing high-quality life insurance to members of the military and their families. So our policies have no fine print and no military service restrictions. We don't work on commission. We're nonprofit, so we pass the savings along to our members. Because at Navy Mutual, our highest commitment is to you. Visit NavyMutual.org. Navy Mutual, insuring those who serve.
The wait for the holidays is over, America. It's time to make some joy. And we're here to help with the Ford Built for the Holidays sales event. We're offering the best deals of the season across the Ford lineup, so you can road trip with the whole family comfortably in a Ford Expedition. Bring home a tree that's bigger than you ever have with a built Ford Tough F-150. And find new ways to make the holidays bright this year when you visit your local Ford dealer. The joy is up to you, America, so let's get to it. Ford, Built for the Holidays.
Jaguars Happy Hour is presented in part by TIAA Bank, created to serve, built to perform. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. And Baptist Health, changing healthcare for good.
Yeah, I think when you're a coach and you name someone that's going to play and go in there and you put whoever on the field, I think you're always going to have full confidence. I don't think you're ever going to get someone that's going to say, well, we'll put him out there and I got my fingers crossed, or oh, gosh, I hope he doesn't. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, anyone that you're putting out there to do a certain assignment, whatever it may be, special teams, defense, offense, you have to have that type of confidence in them.
Head coach Doug Marrone earlier this week. And welcome back, Jaguars Happy Hour ahead of the Week 15 matchup, the Jags and the Ravens at M&T Bank Stadium, Baltimore, Sunday. We covered Lamar Jackson. And now Gardner Minshew will get the start for the Jacksonville Jaguars at quarterback. His first starting role for the Jags since Week 7. Week 8 was the bye where they found out he had a thumb issue for a few weeks, and he has not played since then until the third quarter last week when he relieved Mike Glennon, finished the game, got a touchdown drive. They moved the ball against some soft defenses late in the game. So Gardner is the starter for this week, Logs. Minshew Mania, is it back? We'll find out on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say that the Minshew Mania. I mean, when you've got a football team that's lost 12 games in a row, there's not a whole lot of mania about anything. And I think a little bit of a discouraging part to this is when Minshew came in, there were some opportunities there in the red zone that failed. There were 2 fourth down throws that the throws by Gardner Minshew were not very good. And to be perfectly honest, the 1 fourth down play doesn't even give his receiver an opportunity. When it's fourth down, you gotta even risk an interception to make it catchable. But it was overthrown and uncatchable. And then the other one was another fourth down was 5 yards away from his wide receiver who had zero chance. And so I wouldn't term it mania. I would more term it that the Jags are hopeful that they can get a little bit more out of the quarterback position. Mike Glennon did not exactly have a very good outing the other day. He hasn't been great, I don't think, in any of his outings that he had, the 3 games that he had an opportunity in. He's just been okay. He has pushed the ball downfield a little bit more, and I think that's the big difference that we're going to see between the previous weeks and now with the team going back to Minshew, is that you won't see the intermediate to deep stuff being attacked as much. At least Mike Glennon tried a lot of those, didn't have a great success, obviously, or otherwise he would still be the starter. But with Gardner Minshew, he doesn't have the accuracy at times to throw the ball down the field. He doesn't have the anticipation, or hasn't shown it, to throw the ball down the field. But the one thing that he does do that's very exciting is to make off-schedule plays happen. And off-schedule plays are when he aborts a play or leaves the pocket or he's forced out of the pocket, and then all of a sudden it becomes, for lack of a better term, playground football, to where the routes and everything are off the table, and now every guy just tries to create and do something himself to get open. And a perfect example of that was the I think it was a 4th down completion to Keelan Cole, where he adjusted and shook the defender coming across the field when Minshew escaped out to his right toward the Jaguar sideline, and it was a nice play. So we're probably going to see more of that, and Jay Gruden and Doug Marrone talked about it this week, that the wide receiver group has to be ready to be able to deal with more off-schedule plays than they have typically dealt with before when Glennon or Luton were at the quarterback spot.
And the offensive line has to learn how to do that again too. That can be a really quite a challenge for those guys when all of a sudden Gardner, wait a minute, he's running now. I have to let go of this guy. I can't hold.
Well, I had that conversation with Boselli, and we could have that conversation with him here coming up. But he will tell you, be the first to tell you, that when you play offensive line, you want a quarterback that's in the pocket, that stays in the pocket, and that trusts the pocket. And I'm not saying that the offensive line has been great, because they have had some shortcomings as well, especially when needing to protect the passer at a critical moment at the end of the ball game. And so, look, it's going to be hard to protect for anybody, because this Ravens team has some very good players. This defense can play football. They play a bunch of different packages, and so you have to get ready for different looks. You have to get ready for different personnel. So you're going to have a challenge from that aspect of it, but then also you add in that Minshew at times will abort a play and not be where you're protecting, as an offensive lineman, then it can be very frustrating, and you got to fight off the frustration and deal with it. But yeah, it's going to be a little different for the offensive line this week. Because, here, real quick, JP, and not to cut you off,
yes,
but you also have to remember something too, in that Gardner Minshew can bail out an offensive line at times if there is an issue.
That's right.
And so that can be a positive. It's not always a negative. It can be a positive. And this week, obviously, Linder going on to IR. Shatley is now going to be the center, I'm sure, for the remainder of the games. And who's going to play left guard? Hopefully Norwell's able to come back, because he will certainly provide a boost to that offensive line. And he was playing pretty good football prior to the arm injury, so we'll have to see how he looks when he comes back. And it's good that he is coming back, because Barch is on the COVID list, and not sure how long that will last, but nonetheless, it's good to have the big mean offensive guard back at his position, and that's Norwell.
Jay Gruden called him Big Nasty this week in his press conference, in fact, so let's hope he's back in the lineup. Speaking of frustration, you mentioned that. You could tell earlier in the year that there was some frustration building just with the body language of DJ Chark, the Jaguars wide receiver. And, it's been a struggle statistically for him as of late as well. Jay Gruden, Jaguars offensive coordinator, asked about that. And how do you jumpstart your receiver down the stretch?
DJ's a great kid, working very hard, and we've tried to target him, and it just hasn't happened. Whether it's protection issue, whether he's been covered, whether it's been a poor throw, whatever, it just has not happened the way we anticipated it happening in training camp. He had a great training camp. He's a great player. And, we just got to try to continue to figure out ways to get him the ball, whether it's in a slot, whether it's outside, whether it's in a stack, wherever it might be. We got to try to figure out ways to get him the ball, and he's got to continue to work on his craft as well. So I think everything goes hand in hand. The production hasn't been there really for anybody for from a standpoint of what we expect. So we just have to continue to demand more, and hopefully we'll get more.
Yeah, and Gruden also added that it's not just a Chark frustration issue. It's an everybody's frustrated issue with everything going on offense, and things just aren't going as well in the passing game, and the changes in quarterbacks and everything happening. It's a lot going on. Chark's been battling. He's been banged up a little bit as the season has gone on too, Logs, but you got to keep feeding the guy, and he's your best receiver.
See, I don't agree with that. I mean, it's not a matter of feeding him. It's a matter of DJ getting open and having it thrown to him. I mean, that's the one thing I will say this past game, DJ didn't get the separation that was needed to be able to get the catches that he wants or that they want to get him. I mean, Malcolm Butler did a very good job in covering him, and so credit the defender for doing a good job. And DJ, I don't know if he's still ailing. He's dealt with some injuries this year. And is that still bothering him? Maybe, because I can tell you this, that watching DJ in person and then watching DJ on film, I didn't see the DJ that I've seen in the past to where you find out that he's open on a lot of plays and he's not getting the ball. So I think when Gruden's talking there and he's saying, hey, look, we need to get on the ball, I think I'm not trying to be politically correct, but he's trying to say, hey, look, we do need to get our good players the ball. But he also said that DJ needs to continue to work on his craft, and that's very true. And then I think sometimes you get into a little bit of a bad spot, I think, when you continue to talk about how we need to get him the ball. We need to get him the ball. Because then you're changing the mindset of a quarterback and also of an offense, in that it becomes about getting him the ball instead of allowing us to be successful. And I think coaches need to sometimes say, we need to get the ball to people that are open and that can win. If that's DJ, great. If that's Keelan Cole, that's great. We need to utilize all of our weapons. I think I would rather hear that in that situation than we need to keep feeding DJ. We need to find him. We need to get him more involved. We need to get him involved early. Because you hear a lot of that talk. And look, the reality, JP, when you originally brought this up, you talked about some frustration earlier in the year with Gardner Minshew, and you mentioned DJ, and yes, you saw frustration, but it wasn't just from DJ. It was from Keelan Cole. It was from DJ, and it was very clear that the body language wasn't real positive towards Gardner Minshew. And I think the reason for that is when plays get aborted and a guy is open, the receiver wants the quarterback to stay in there and throw the ball to an open receiver instead of to scramble around and then do something different out of the play's design. So Gardner Minshew has obviously got to, I think, earn the respect and trust of his players once again, and that's by performing. And that's what happens in the National Football League. You have to continue to get the respect by performance. And Minshew hasn't played in a while, and here he has an opportunity to get that and earn that back from the players.
Plenty ahead on Jaguars Happy Hour. Tony Boselli joins us after the timeout, and a little later, two former Jaguars on the Ravens defense now, Calais Campbell and Yannick Ngakoue. We'll get into those guys' matchup this week against the Jaguars offensive line. And this is Jaguars Happy Hour on the Jaguars Digital Network.
Hi, I'm Tito Beverage, founder and master distiller at Tito's Handmade Vodka. In 1997, we became the first micro distillery in the state of Texas, and we're still making the same smooth stuff after all these years. We're still cooking in a pot still, working with our dogs by our sides, having fun and tasting batches, and I'm still wearing the same hat, even after all these years. Head over to Tito'sVodka.com to learn more about what else we're doing the same. Cheers. 80 proof Tito's Handmade Vodka, distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. Tito'sVodka.com.
Why live with foot or ankle pain? If you have persistent pain, numbness, tingling, burning pain on the bottom of your foot, or swelling that doesn't improve with home treatment, it may be time to see Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute. Our foot and ankle specialists have innovative new options to help you get back in the swing of things without persistent pain that slows you down. Call JOI 2000 or go to joionline.net for an appointment.
Dream Finders Homes has a simple commitment to their home buyers. Deliver unsurpassed quality, uncompromising value, and an extraordinary level of customization you simply won't find with other home builders. With over 40 communities to choose from, you'll find a location you love and the home of your dreams. Dream Finders has townhomes, single-family homes, and custom estate homes starting from the high 100s and a wide selection of move-in ready homes. Quality, value, customization. That's the Dream Finders difference. Call 904-738-0165 or online at dreamfindershomes.com. Dream Finders Homes, the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Prices subject to change without notice. Equal housing opportunity.
In Florida, bicyclists have the same rights and responsibilities as everyone else on the road. So when you ride, follow the rules. Always wear a helmet and use lights on your bike. And drivers, watch for cyclists. Give them space to ride. And don't forget, when making that right on red, look to your right first to see if a cyclist is approaching in the bike lane. We all have a responsibility to keep ourselves and each other safe. Alert today, alive tomorrow. Because safety doesn't happen by accident. This message brought to you by the Florida Department of Transportation.
At ViStar, we believe in better. Better convenience, so members can bank any way they want. Whether it's at a branch, on a mobile device, or at one of more than 20,000 fee-free ATMs across North America. We believe that people have better things to do with their time. If you believe that convenience is better, join ViStar. We never forget that it's your money. All loans subject to approval, insured by NCUA.
Looking to be your own boss in a proven business model? Do you like construction and working outdoors? Superior Fence and Rail is franchising in new markets all over the Southeast, from Birmingham to Savannah and even a few more markets in Florida. Come win with Superior Fence and Rail and redefine the fence industry. So get off the fence and call Superior Fence and Rail to learn more about starting a fence franchise today.
SuperiorFenceandRail.com.
Jaguars Happy Hour is presented in part by Dream Finders Homes, homes that fit your lifestyle. Next Grill, everyone's invited. And Adecco. Visit AdeccoUSA.com.
I was like excited, ready to go. I mean, I was already, going into the week, I was, kind of expecting it, ready to roll. Just glad to be back in the saddle.
Giddy up. Back in the saddle again. Gardner Minshew II. Jaguars quarterback will face the Ravens Sunday at M&T Bank Stadium. Welcome back to Jaguars Happy Hour. JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman, and pride of the Jaguars left tackle Tony Boselli joins us now in the second half of the program. Are you feeling Minshew mania again, Tony?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, he's back.
Boy, you really sold me on that reaction.
Well, I'm not really trying to sell anyone on anything. I mean, he's back. I'll say, JP, we said it on Monday night. I mean, I love Log's reaction. I'm sure he's already given it. I didn't see anything at the end in the second half of that game when he played the majority of it that made me think, boy, there's the answer. Like, he's back. Nothing, not taking a shot at him or saying anything. I mean, we've gone through three quarterbacks now, and those three quarterbacks have been a part of, they haven't lost it themselves, but have been a part of 12 straight losses. And if you look at the sample size that we saw in the second half last week, it was against the game was pretty much out of hand. I thought the Titans defense, how they were playing, and did Gardner take what they gave him? Yes. And does he give you more opportunities using his legs? Absolutely. But then there's also couldn't finish drives in the red zone. We saw some very inaccurate passes. I mean, there's a number of things. Now, is there rust? Sure. Is he getting all the reps that he probably will this week? Absolutely not. So he's going to be the starter. Doug, obviously, and the staff believe he gives him the best chance of winning. I trust that. I have no problem with that. But if you're expecting me to get my pom-poms out and start cheering and doing, backflips, I'm not quite there.
Come on, man. Where's your teal pom-poms, Tony? Come on.
Jeff, I mean, are you going to say anything different?
No. I already said the same thing as you. I think he will give a level of excitement because of the off schedule part of it. But the on schedule, the intermediate to deep throws, and a lot of people may listen to what I'm saying about deep throws and kind of misunderstand what I'm saying. Like Gardner Minshew can throw a go route, which is, receiver running vertically and he throws it up and the receiver runs underneath of it and he catches it. But what Gardner doesn't and hasn't done very well this year is when he has to stand in the pocket and he has to hit a timing route that's 15 yards down the field or a timing route that's 18 yards down the field, and he has to throw it into a window and anticipate it and make the throw well before you actually can see it with your own eyes. He knows that it's going to happen. But those are the parts where he struggles. He can throw a deep ball, vertical go route, but it's the intermediate to deep stuff that's timing, that requires a throw that has more of a line drive type look to it as opposed to the rainbow stuff. So, look, I'm not trying to down the guy or anything like that, and kind of along the same lines of Tony, but this is going to be a tough go against the Ravens defense that's playing pretty well, that plays a lot of different looks. And they get to practice against a quarterback who abandons and aborts plays all the time. So they're going to be ready for that.
Hey, Tony, I got a quick question for you about the off-schedule type quarterback. How much of a challenge is that for an offensive line when all of a sudden, hey, wait a minute, the quarterback's running past me now. I need to let go of this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult in the sense that you don't really know where the launch point is. I mean, if you have a pure pocket, let's think of Tom Brady or Drew Brees, or go down the list of guys that are going to be in the pocket they're at. You can gauge the angle of the rusher and everything else and kind of get a game plan of what you want to do. I think you have to approach it the same way even with a guy that's going to escape, because you can't plan for the escape. You can't plan for the off-schedule play. That's why it's called off-schedule. But you just have to be aware of, you got to block through the whistle and continue to try to use good technique and understand if you can react fast enough when that guy runs by you outside the pocket. Let's say if you're the left tackle, he escapes left, and that guy starts releasing away from you, you got to let go. And that's where some holding penalties can take place. Now, you're talking about two different dudes when you're comparing Lamar Jackson off-schedule plays and Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew can't extend plays, and he can use his legs to pick up first downs. The off-schedule plays for Lamar Jackson are 70-yard touchdowns in the sense that he takes off with his legs and he's the fastest guy on the field. Looks like a video game out there. So two different dudes in that sense, but there is a challenge, whether it's Lamar Jackson or Gardner Minshew, for an offensive lineman not knowing exactly where the launch point is going to be and where that quarterback's going to be.
To Lamar Jackson now, a little more on the Ravens quarterback. And we were talking earlier, Logs and I, about the run game in Baltimore. And it's, we obviously have seen running games the last few weeks. The Browns can run it. The Titans can run it. The Ravens have a stable of running backs. When you add that running quarterback option into it, it just changes the whole dynamic of everything, Tony.
Well, I'm pretty sure the stat was, and keep me honest here, Jeff, I think it was they had scored 28 points and they had thrown the ball 6 times.
That's about right.
Against the Browns. I mean, unreal. And you literally have the best athlete on the field playing quarterback for the Ravens. And it's not this like, hey, he's going to go zone read and he can take it a 10, 15-yard run and he's going to slide down. He can take the zone read and be gone for 70, 80. And he's going to cut back and he's going to make people miss. And he's a running back when he has the ball. And so it's a huge challenge because, how do you, the goal would be say, hey, let's keep him in the pocket. Well, you can't, because he's faster than everyone rushing him and he can just get outside and take off. How do we force him to throw the ball? Well, it's hard because he is going to run whenever he wants, and they have such a powerful running attack. A lot of times they're ahead of the chain, so they don't have to drop back and pass. The formula to beat the Ravens and to put pressure on Lamar Jackson in this offense is to get him out of what they want to do. And the only way you can do that is to get a couple score lead. And you have to put pressure on them to play catch up. That's where they've struggled over the last several years, is when they have to play catch up. And so This team has had a double-digit
what I was talking
lead
about
one
earlier.
time. Yeah, the Jags have had a double-digit lead one time in this NFL season. So they have to do something for the second time this week against the Ravens if they want to make Lamar Jackson uncomfortable.
Yeah, not an easy matchup for anybody. I mean, even the elite teams in the National Football League, and extremely difficult for a team of like the Jaguars that are struggling and very young, and Lamar Jackson is so fast. I mean, when you watch the game this weekend, I'm sure it's going to happen, and it's just because he's that good. Miles Jack is one of the fastest linebackers that plays the game. I mean, he can run down people like nobody's business. Just watch and see what Lamar Jackson looks like compared to a Miles Jack when given the opportunity. And because that ought to give people an idea of how fast Lamar Jackson is. Nobody hardly ever runs away. I don't think I've ever seen a running back or a quarterback ever run away from Miles, and this quarterback and Lamar Jackson can do that.
Here's one for you guys. If the Ravens win out, get to the playoffs, and make this run, and Lamar has a big stretch run here, could he win the MVP again, Tony?
No.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think that's out of the question just because of how they played in the middle of the season. I mean, I think really the MVP race is a three-horse race right now. It's Aaron Rodgers, it's Patrick Mahomes. Those are the favorites. I do think Derrick Henry, if he runs off, a couple 150-yard games and gets over 2,000 yards for the season, I think he'll get consideration. But he is definitely the third guy in that race. And so right now, I would agree with Jeff. It's mainly two guys, Mahomes, Rodgers. The closest third is Derrick Henry.
Yeah, you got to do
Few weeks left to go.
something crazy special as a running back to be involved in the MVP conversation. And look, Derrick Henry, like Tony said, if all of a sudden he does rip off a couple 200-yard games and is dominant and leads the Tennessee Titans to tremendous finish to the season, and then all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes struggle. Those things are not very likely, though. But if that were to happen, then he would have a chance of being the MVP. But right now, JP, holy cow, Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, I mean, those two guys are lights out.
They're playing well. And this is the time of year where the good teams really rise up and play big in big moments. And we'll see with 3 weeks
JP,
to go.
real quick,
Tony.
before we go to break, Jeff, did you see, you mentioned Patrick Mahomes, and this is off topic of the Jaguars or this Ravens game. But Jeff forever has said that Patrick Mahomes was the best college quarterback he ever saw on tape. Sean Payton came out this week for the Saints head coach and said Patrick Mahomes had the greatest workout he'd ever seen of any college quarterback. So Log's in good company with Sean Payton as far as evaluating quarterbacks.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty cool.
I thought Logs would be a bit more excited than that. Let's come back to a moment.
I was trying to pump him up, JP.
I appreciate that, Tony. I
call,
appreciate
Logs.
that. I would be a lot more pumped up if the Jaguars had him right now. I can tell you that.
Me too.
Yeah. Let's come back in a moment. A couple of former Jaguars will be lining up for the Baltimore Ravens this week. We'll dig into it and our final thoughts ahead. It's Jaguars Happy Hour on the Jaguars Digital Network.
Hi, I'm Tito Beverage, founder and master distiller at Tito's Handmade Vodka. In 1997, we became the first micro distillery in the state of Texas, and we're still making the same smooth stuff after all these years. We're still cooking in a pot still, working with our dogs by our sides, having fun and tasting batches, and I'm still wearing the same hat, even after all these years. Head over to Tito'sVodka.com to learn more about what else we're doing the same. Cheers. 80 proof Tito's Handmade Vodka, distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. Tito'sVodka.com.
Dreamfinders Homes has a simple commitment to their home buyers. Deliver unsurpassed quality, uncompromising value, and an extraordinary level of customization you simply won't find with other home builders. With over 40 communities to choose from, you'll find a location you love and the home of your dreams. Dreamfinders has townhomes, single-family homes, and custom estate homes starting from the high 100s and a wide selection of move-in ready homes. Quality, value, customization. That's the Dreamfinders difference. Call 904-738-0165 or online at dreamfindershomes.com. Dreamfinders Homes, the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Prices subject to change without notice. Equal housing opportunity.
At Tropical Smoothie Cafe, one taste and you're feeling good now, smiling wider now, seeing brighter now, bucket dunking now, namasteing now, popping a wheelie now, living lighter now. You're on Tropic Time now. And on Mondays, try our Jaguars Duval Delight Smoothies for $2.99. And you're roaring louder now, end zone dancing now, sipping spirit now. You're on Tropic Time now at Tropical Smoothie Cafe.
Hi folks, Frank Frangie here for the best barbecue in town. That's Bono's. And now it's the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. All season long, you can get Bono's barbecue at 6 different locations in Everbank Field. You also get Bono's barbecue at 15 locations all around town with fast, friendly service, clean family restaurants, and that great, great taste of Bono's barbecues. If you want great barbecue, you want Bono's. And remember this, if there ain't a pit, it ain't legit. That's Bono's.
The wait for the holidays is over, America. It's time to make some joy. And we're here to help with the Ford Built for the Holidays sales event. We're offering the best deals of the season across the Ford lineup, so you can road trip with the whole family comfortably in a Ford Expedition. Bring home a tree that's bigger than you ever have with a built Ford Tough F-150. And find new ways to make the holidays bright this year when you visit your local Ford dealer. The joy is up to you, America, so let's get to it. Ford, built for the holidays.
Like working outdoors and want better pay and benefits? Superior Fence and Rail is seeking full-time fence installers with pay ranging from $16 to $25 an hour and more with commercial experience. Superior Fence and Rail will train you to work with their professional team and provide you with all the tools you need to be a top-notch installer. Get off the fence. Call Superior Fence and Rail today and start your career.
SuperiorFenceandRail.com.
Everyone knows what I've said in the past about those two players. I've got a ton of respect for them. I really do. And, I hope, that they're doing well. I mean, personally and everything. And I hope they're happy. I think anyone that coaches their players, whether they stay, whether they leave, whatever goes on, at the end of the day, you just hope, hey, listen, they're happy, There's always the competitiveness, where you do always want to play well, against your team, or your team wants to play well against you. But I got a ton of respect for those guys. You can't get, two better guys in a building than those two.
Head coach Doug Marrone discussing Calais Campbell and Yannick Ngakoue, now members of the Baltimore Ravens. The Jaguars face the Ravens Sunday at M&T Bank Stadium on the Inner Harbor. Welcome back to Jaguars Happy Hour. JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman, and Tony Boselli. And Calais Campbell been battling a little bit of a calf issue. He has 27 tackles this year, 4 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for loss. And we know the Yannick Ngakoue story, traded to the Vikings, who then traded him to the Ravens. And he has not done a lot statistically since showing up in Baltimore. But Logs, that those guys will be fired up and ready to go. And as Gardner Minshew said this week, Yannick Ngakoue might be out for blood on Sunday.
Well, he might be, but the reality is he hasn't been very good for the Ravens so far. He had 5 sacks for the Vikings. He's got 1 sack with the Ravens. And watching the film on him, and I'm sure Tony's done the same thing, he's been unimpressive in the last couple games. Calais looks like he's battling back from 2 things. One, the calf injury that clearly has affected him. Looks like he doesn't have a lot of push off, a lot of power. and he's kind of catching a little bit, which would indicate a calf injury that is not allowing him to push. And the other thing, too, is that Calais said this. He said that the COVID-19 battle was tough, and he's still trying to get his wind back from him having COVID. So that's it's never easy to come back from an injury, but then all of a sudden you have an injury, then a virus that has impacted you. That's got to be tough. But I think both guys obviously want to play well against the Jaguars, but you all of a sudden can't turn into Superman if you haven't been Superman over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you are what you are during the season based on how you performed and what the film says, not what you did in the past. And listen, Calais Campbell is a very good player. He had a great stint with the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's no doubt about that. But for all the reasons Jeff talked about, is he still a good player? Absolutely. Is he the dominant player that we remember him as when he was at his height here? No, he's not. And Yannick is a guy that, similar in the sense of like he's a finesse rusher, and that's what he is. And it'll be interesting to see the matchup between him and Cam Robinson. I guarantee you, Yannick wants to prove that it was a big mistake, and he's going to give his best. And Cam's going to have to set right and do some right things, because if he opens up and leans a little bit, Yannick will get him with that jump chop that he has. So, both those guys are going to be ready to go, and they're going to try to put their best foot forward.
Yeah, the numbers, JP, on these two guys are tremendous. Ngakoue, obviously 4 years with the Jaguars, 37.5 sacks, tremendous number, and a tremendous amount of forced fumbles as well. He has been a tomahawk chopping crazy pass rusher. And Calais, in 3 years with the Jaguars, 31.5 sacks. I mean, that's unbelievable, and arguably one of the best Jaguar defenders in history. Even though he only played for 3 years, he would definitely go up into that list if I was putting that list together. And I think the most important thing about Calais, one of the greatest guys I've ever met, one of the greatest players I've ever watched. And you put those two together, I mean, that's exactly what you're always trying to find, I think, in personnel, is to find those type of guys that can lead your football team and be the example for your football team going forward. And I think there's a lot of guys that learned a lot from Calais Campbell here in Jacksonville.
It'll be interesting, though.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we'll be talking about it, Jeff. You know that. I mean, it'll be a part of the whip, I guarantee you that, opening and early in that game, and probably for most of it. I know for one, it'll be hard not to watch and see what Calais is doing and watch the matchup between Yannick and Cam Robinson. I mean, these are guys that were part of this organization for a long time, left for different reasons this year. And we're both, especially Calais, were fan favorites, and the fans didn't want to see leave. So it's going to be a lot of attention on it.
Yeah,
Calais Campbell
the one thing that's
Walter
interesting,
Payton Man of the Year.
Yeah, which is a tremendous honor, and it just goes to show you the quality guy that Calais is. But it was interesting that the Jaguars traded Ngakoue, and then the Minnesota Vikings turned around and traded him to the Ravens and didn't get what they paid the Jaguars for, and which is kind of surprising because he had 5 sacks with the Minnesota Vikings before they decided to trade him. So pretty interesting right there. And I was not a very big fan of the Calais trade. I think they got a 5th-round pick for him, and in my mind, that was an absolute mistake. And that you keep a guy like Calais Campbell around just to be in the locker room to help, quote-unquote, raise guys the right way in the NFL culture. And I know that there's a lot of Jaguar fans that were very upset when they let him go, but he was one of many that were let go after this past year.
So there you have it. Oh, by the way, the Jaguars did have a transaction just a little bit ago. They have placed linebacker Kamale Correa on the team's exempt left squad list, the club announced. So he's no longer on the football team. Another change, Logs, to add on the defensive side.
Well, and interesting to me, why? I mean, I don't know if you leave a team, obviously there's some personal reasons there, so I'm not going to speculate as to what that is. But Joe Giles Harris has done a pretty good job playing that Sam linebacking position. Got his first career sack this past week and did a good job with that. But overall, he's been playing pretty well. So I don't know if Kamale had lost a job. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but the Jaguars are okay at that position. But once again, now you're starting to lose depth and lose players. I mean, this defense, and they've been dealing with that all year long.
Yeah, I saw that release, and it was an interesting designation. And to Jeff's point, we don't know the whole story about why and how and what the backstory is. So no reason to speculate, but I was a little bit surprised to see it.
Yeah, and we'll see what other moves there could be. Also, the injury report came out today. Tyler Eifert didn't practice yesterday with a quad issue, limited today. Sidney Jones, limited yesterday with the Achilles issue, did not practice today. So there you go, another cornerback notable there that did not practice today. And it's going to be one of those weeks with with Trey Herndon on the COVID list now and Sidney Jones not practicing today. We'll see what Friday holds, but that's more changes, Logs.
Yeah, I don't know what the status is, obviously, because when a player goes on the COVID list, they could have tested positive. They could have been around somebody. If Trey Herndon was positive, obviously he's not going to be available for the game this week. But if he was just around somebody who was, then he could be available this week. So, and they don't release that information. We don't get that information. So that will be interesting to see what happens with that. And then Sidney Jones, not having him available practice day, that's a little concerning. He's been a pretty good football player when he's been available, and thought you were going to get him back in the lineup for the rest of the year, but maybe not. So we'll have to kind of wait and see. But if they, in fact, have to go to some other people, that could end up being the 11th different lineup in the Jaguars secondary in the season, which is an amazing number.
It's crazy when you think about it. I mean, when you say that, it's nuts. And Jeff, if you think back to the game last week in the fourth quarter, late in that fourth quarter, Sidney Jones wasn't playing either. And I wonder if it's something he aggravated in the game, and they took him out in the fourth quarter, if it's just it's carried over from then there. So that's definitely a concern.
11 different secondary lineups. I mean, that's almost unheard of, really.
No, it's not.
I've
it is.
Never seen that.
I mean, it's something else. And we'll ask Doug about this coming up on the Doug Marrone Show in a few minutes. But 79 different players have touched the field this year for the Jaguars. It's the most in the NFL this year. It's the most in franchise history for a single season. And it's the second most in the league since 1993. That's as far as the stat goes back on the official league site. Only the Dolphins had more players play in a season last year. They had 84 players, 79 different guys, and it could be 80 or 81 depending on what happens this week.
It's just crazy.
Still time left.
Still time to go. So a lot of change. We'll see how Doug has to have managed that over the last few weeks with all the change. Can't be easy, certainly, for a head coach. So, Tony, we've got 3 weeks to go, and still 3 weeks to try to go get that winning result and snap this awful losing skid.
Yeah, I think this is a tough week. You know, we talked about what a tough matchup it is. We talked about Lamar Jackson. We talked about good defense that they have. They're aggressive. They have good players on that side of the ball. You have more injuries. You know, hopefully Gardner gives them a little bit of juice to get something going. But I think it's a tough task for go on the road. You're playing a team that is in a must-win situation to stay in the playoffs and to keep pace. So it's a big mountain to climb, but hopefully they climb it.
Yeah, JP,
nice.
hopefully, and Tony, hopefully James Robinson has a big day. That would solve a lot of issues. It would take pressure off of Gardner Minshew. It would keep Lamar Jackson on the sideline. It would be nice for James Robinson to make some headway towards breaking Fred Taylor's rookie rushing record.
Agreed.
All right, Tony. We will talk to you on Sunday, Tony. Have a good one.
See you guys.
Tony Boselli out of here. The Doug Marrone Show is right around the corner. Our thanks to our entire crew. Joe Fortunato, Brent Reber back at the stadium, Tony Boselli, and Jeff Lageman. The head coach coming up in just a few moments. Interested to hear his take on this matchup this week and the week of work and all the changes the Jags have been through really over the past few months. 3 weeks to go in the regular season. That'll do it for Jaguars Happy Hour on the Jaguars Digital Network.
This is the Doug Marrone Show.
The Doug Marrone Show.
Former Jaguar Jeff Lageman and JP Shadrick discuss the latest Jaguars news with the head coach. The Doug Marrone Show starts right now.
Marrone Show presented by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. JP Shadrick from the home studio, Jeff Lageman from his home studio across town and downtown in Jacksonville at TIAA Bank Field from his office. It's head coach Doug Marrone joining us on the program. Good afternoon to you, Coach. Good to see you. Appreciate your time as always. And let's start with something we just finished discussing on a previous show here in Jacksonville moments ago. And I think we talked about this as the season has gone along, and I know you felt it in the building. All the changes on the roster, so many guys coming and going either off IR or moving or getting moved off or cut or whatever the deal is with these guys. And I'm thinking the other day, well, that seems like a lot of players. Well, 79 different players have touched the field for you this year. It's the most in the league this year. It's a franchise record. And not only that, it's the second most players to play for a team in the NFL since at least 1993. Miami had 84 guys last year. How do you handle all of that change all the time on the roster? It has to be difficult with guys coming and going.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us as coaches individually, I think, it's not as big of an issue. I haven't really even thought about it. And it didn't even really, JP, hit me till yesterday. I was talking to Keelan Cole, and he's like, we were in a conversation and something came up and Keelan said to me, he said, Coach, every time I come in here, there's a different guy next to me in the locker room. This is crazy, And I was just like, hey, listen, when you have injuries and you have things and you need to bring people in and you're trying to win football games and you're trying to better the roster. These are the things that go on, and it's different. He's been here with us, earlier where when you're winning football games and everyone's playing at a high level, I think the roster remains, pretty much intact. I think you're always looking to build the roster at any point during the season. But it's been interesting to say the least of all the changes and everything like that. But between COVID, between injuries, between not being able to perform well, not being able to win. I mean, these are the things that happen in the league. I remember when Jimmy Johnson first took over the Dallas Cowboys, every week, and I had friends on that team, and they would say every week, they were working guys out every Monday. They were changing the roster constantly. I think those are the things that you do. I think if you're not doing that, I think it gives a poor impression that you're not trying to get better.
Doug, a little bit of a distraction probably from Jaguars football today. Your son Mac played in the 4A state championship game, and so I was driving down the road today, and I actually had it on the radio, and I heard Mac Marrone making a bunch of tackles. Did you get a chance to see the final score, and were you able to listen to it or to watch it or anything of that nature?
Yeah, so we had practice. So our practice starts at 12:45. So obviously, I'm here for the players and the coaches, and as a coach, a coach's family understands your responsibilities, and I appreciate that. From my son and I had a talk with that, and he was great with it. I think it's just disappointing. I mean, you can look at it, for all for him and all his teammates, they've been in 2 years in a row they've been in the state championship and came up short. And it's tough. But I think like all of us, Jeff, that played in this game, and I texted him prior to the game, and I'm like, this will be your last game ever in high school, and it will be one that will be in your soul. And I really believe that. I think that all of us that have competed and the type of friendships and the relationships that you have amongst your teammates, and it doesn't matter if it's football, any sport, and you're playing in the game and you've lasted till the end of the year, you're going to remember. And I just told him, I said, hey, listen, have no regrets. Play every play like it's your last. And, I'm just proud of you, and I'm proud of all your teammates. And, obviously, like I said, and I said a couple things the other day, and I meant it. It's not going to be a good Christmas, in the Marrone household.
No, I hear you on that. But the one thing, though, Doug, that he will be able to take away from that, because I remember high school football like it was yesterday. And I remember my playoff experience. We never advanced to a state championship or anything, but you're right. The friendships and the memories that you have will carry with you forever. And that's one of the great things about sports, especially high school football, is that you have those bonds that will last certainly well into the future. I mean, I'm still great friends with a lot of the guys that I was high school teammates with, even probably more so than some of the college and pro teammates that I've had.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm closer. I mean, I have like 6 or 7 friends that I played with in high school from all different parts of the Bronx. I'm really close to my high school coaches, that still, text me, quite frequently. And I think that's the greatest thing in the world. And I've always tried to tell people, I mean, when you're in a truly a team sport, the amount of adversity and challenges and communication and, that you have to go through, and the different types of people that you're in is only going to benefit you, later in life. And, I firmly believe that. And the relationships you have, I think, when you're younger, and it's truly a love of the sport, not as much as a business as I think once you get to college, you start to realize it's a business. And obviously we know the NFL is a business. I think those bonds are really, really strong.
Hey, Doug, is it tough? I know it's the profession you're in. You're involved in obviously, you're the head coach of the football team in the NFL. Is it, you have less control over what happens on the high school with your son? Which one is more, frustrating, impactful? I know that this season has not gone well for the Jags, but as a parent, there's not much you can do, right? You're just over on the sideline.
I never. I mean, the one thing about it, and it's interesting. So my son has written some essays, obviously, for college, and the one that my wife had sent me was like, the one thing I appreciate from my dad is my dad never really pushed me into a sport, and that's the way I was raised. So my parents never really pushed me, into sport, or because of what I do, they feel like they have to do it. And I think. So I've always appreciated him and kind of let him go ahead and play and do his thing. I didn't want to be that dad, or that little league dad, or that dad on the sideline. I just told him the only thing I ever asked of him, and it's no different than I asked of the players, is just do your best. I mean, that's all you can do. Just do your best. And, if you love it, and you do your best, and you can live with yourself. If you don't love it, you're never going to be able to do your best. So I think there's a lot of messages that I think carry out through this young age that I think people can take, and later on in life be successful in what you do.
Coach, let's come back in a moment. We'll get into this Week 15 matchup, the Jags and the Ravens, coming up at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. And this is the Doug Marrone Show on the Jaguars Radio Network.
Whether you're driving to a Jaguars game or on the way to work, when you see flashing lights, please move over. If you can't move over a lane, slow down 20 miles per hour below the speed limit. You can protect those who help you on the road, from law enforcement and other first responders to utility and tow truck drivers, they all need you to be at the top of your game while you're driving. See lights? Please move over. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and the Florida Highway Patrol.
The wait for the holidays is over, America. It's time to make some joy. And we're here to help with the Ford Built for the Holidays sales event. We're offering the best deals of the season across the Ford lineup, so you can road trip with the whole family comfortably in a Ford Expedition. Bring home a tree that's bigger than you ever have with a built Ford Tough F-150. And find new ways to make the holidays bright this year when you visit your local Ford dealer. The joy is up to you, America, so let's get to it. Ford, built for the holidays.
Sassine's Office Systems helps you manage information more efficiently, offering a full line of award-winning copiers, printers, electronic document storage solutions, mailing solutions, and IT solutions. Founded in 1981, Sassine's continues to offer unmatched customer support and world-class scalable technologies to both small businesses and Fortune 500 companies. Located in Jacksonville, Daytona, Orlando, Tampa, and Gainesville, Sassine's is ready with your office solutions. Call 888-771-2679 or visit sissines.com today. Jaguars fans, game day is back, and while it might look a little different this year, the good times, smooth drinks, and tailgate excitement will never change when you're cheering on the Jags with Jameson. So pull up a seat, pour a smooth Jameson, ginger, and lime, and enjoy game day with Jameson. Taste responsibly. Jameson Irish Whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume, 80 proof. Product of Ireland. Copyright 2020. Imported by John Jameson Import Company, New York, New York.
Welcome back to the HananiaAutos.com studio. The Doug Marrone Show continues right now.
Welcome back, JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman, and head coach Doug Marrone ahead of the Week 15 matchup, the Jaguars and the Baltimore Ravens, and Lamar Jackson lining up at quarterback for Baltimore, the defending NFL MVP. And Doug, I don't think there's anybody in the league like him. He's a dynamic runner, obviously, and then you throw him with that stable of running backs they have and mix him in to run the football as well. This is a tough task in the running game this week.
It is, and it's a different type of task where, normally you want to get as many people to the ball as you possibly can, against teams that are good running football teams. This one, there's so much going on, meaning, there's so much counteraction. There's so much of really, truly defending the whole entire field with guys going in all different directions. The misdirection game, it's truly option football where you have to know exactly where you need to fit, know exactly what your assignment is. And then, when he holds the football, Lamar Jackson, when he decides to hold it and run with it, then usually there's only one person that you have that is going to be in the correct position to go ahead and tackle him. And if you can't make that tackle, it's going to be a big play. And either if you're playing single high and you're free safety, he's the guy that's going to have to help, but it's going to be a big play and he still has to get him down. So, not only you challenge from a standpoint of the physicality, defeating the block, and all the other things that we all know in football, you're challenged of, hey, listen, I've got to get this guy down in space who has elite speed.
Doug, when you start putting together a game plan against a guy like Lamar Jackson, it's always kind of a bit of a numbers game because of a quarterback that can carry the football. Now all of a sudden the offense has an additional blocker, and so a run fortified front doesn't necessarily mean that when the quarterback can run. And the linebackers, when you talk about the misdirection and the counters and all that stuff, the read option game and all that, linebackers incredibly difficult for them. And for you guys, Joe Schobert and Miles Jack, this might be their toughest game yet this year.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's definitely, Jeff, their biggest challenge because, when you have flow to a side and the backers got to get over the top and you're trying to run a defensive lineman over the top to get the extra players there. The play is going to simulate that they're doing that, but they do just enough to counter back the other way. That you have to remain. So it's a little bit, it's different. It's a different scheme. It's not a scheme that you see week in and week out. I think that, having been in college football, I've seen that before where you might face a wing T or a triple option team where all of a sudden now
that stuff is very difficult to defend because you don't see it week to week, and that's how I feel like this Baltimore offense is. If you can get them into positions where you can get to third and long, and even when you get to third and long, there's a lot of decisions to be made. Do you pressure? Do you play man to man? Against a quarterback that has the ability to run? How do you want to rush him? Are you gonna get pushed by the pocket where he can go? So there's a lot of things come into play that normally don't come in week to week.
And with all that being said, all the challenges of the scheme, now you put an athlete of the caliber of Lamar Jackson that has speed that, and Doug, we talked earlier in the day, and I remember watching Michael Vick thinking, we may never see anybody like this again. And all of a sudden, here comes Lamar Jackson, and he's got even probably more speed than Michael Vick and maybe more dangerous. His numbers certainly say that. So, holy cow, you add that speed into that scheme, and sometimes you can do everything right, and the speed just wins.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to simulate it during the week. We had Terry Godwin obviously playing quarterback for us, so we tried to put a receiver back there, and you can see where Terry would take off and do some things, and you can see the angles, and you're thinking, okay, did we really make that play or not? Because as much speed as Terry has, we know that Lamar has more speed. So, trying to get the correct angles and how you're going to attack them and how you're going to box them in is extremely important. And we've been trying to simulate it all week, but you really don't know until you get out there on Sunday. I mean, how many times we have players have watched guys on film and then walked off the field and go, "Whoa, that guy is really fast." I mean, he's different, and and there's a lot of focus on him, but they still have a lot of weapons. They have weapons at tight end. They have weapons at receiver. Their running backs could run also. So, it's something where you're truly, what's unique about it is they truly challenge you to defend the whole field.
Guys, let's come back. The Jaguars offense against this Ravens defense, and we'll wrap up our conversation. It's the Doug Marrone Show on Jaguars Radio.
Coach Doug Marrone here, reminding all our Jaguar fans, don't fumble when it comes to driving. One text takes your eyes off the road for 5 seconds. And at 55 miles per hour, that's like driving the entire length of a football field with your eyes closed. To win while driving, you must focus. Keep your hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, and mind on driving. Put it down. Focus on driving. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and the Florida Highway Patrol.
Sassine's Office Systems helps you manage information more efficiently, offering a full line of award-winning copiers, printers, electronic document storage solutions, mailing solutions, and IT solutions. Founded in 1981, Sassine's continues to offer unmatched customer support and world-class scalable technologies to both small businesses and Fortune 500 companies. Located in Jacksonville, Daytona, Orlando, Tampa, and Gainesville, Sassine's is ready with your office solutions. Call 888-771-2679 or visit sissines.com today. Jaguars fans, game day is back, and while it might look a little different this year, the good times, smooth drinks, and tailgate excitement will never change when you're cheering on the Jags with Jameson. So pull up a seat, pour a smooth Jameson, ginger, and lime, and enjoy game day with Jameson. Taste responsibly. Jameson Irish Whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume, 80 proof, product of Ireland, copyright 2020, imported by John Jameson Import Company, New York, New York.
Floridians know what it means to stand together. That's why Florida Blue is committed to the people of Florida by providing health care with lower costs and higher quality. Enroll within 60 days of life-changing events, such as losing your job, to get benefits like plans as low as $0 a month and up to $500 per year towards your premiums and wellness rewards. Call 1-800-750-0164 or visit floridablue.com/care today. Florida Blue is a trade name of Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Florida, Incorporated. These health benefit plans have limitations and exclusions.
Welcome back to the HananiaAutos.com studio. The Doug Marrone Show continues right now.
Welcome back to the Doug Marrone Show. JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman, and head coach Doug Marrone. The Jaguars facing the Baltimore Ravens in Week 15 this Sunday at M&T Bank Stadium on the Inner Harbor. Gardner Minshew brought back into the lineup in the third quarter last week. He will start this week's game against the Ravens. And, you know, Doug, you always plan for on-schedule offense. That's how practice works, right? Everything's on time and you're getting it out. But we know Gardner's game is sometimes to escape and do things off schedule. How do you prepare as an offense for that, or do you at all? How do you handle the off-script plays?
Well, I think during the week in practice, obviously you're going to run plays that you want to execute at a high level. So, I mean, that's the goal. I think that when plays break down, and they may break down in practice as well, the coverage changes or you get stuck and then you have to improvise, then, you go into a routine of, okay, whether we want to call it a scramble drill or the quarterback takes off and runs. So we want to make sure that we simulate those things in practice when they do occur. But we don't want to give the impression that every time we call a play that something like that's going to happen. But it does happen during practice, and we continue that play. No different than the defensive players when they have something covered. We want the quarterback to do something, to move, to scramble, to extend the play, to go ahead and make sure we get the throw, make sure that, for lack of a better term, we're plastering the receivers, which means that, hey, we want someone on these guys. We don't want anyone running free. So those things will occur during practice, and we let that go. But we do it more from a situation where it becomes naturally with those things occurring rather than try to actually script something like that.
Doug, with the change of quarterback, and obviously there's been quite a bit of change over the number of weeks since Gardner Minshew had the thumb issue with the the LA Chargers game. How much does the offense change for you going from a guy like a Mike Glennon to a Gardner Minshew? And I'm not looking for the inside secrets, but I mean, just like a percentage-wise, how much of it would be different for a guy like Gardner versus a guy like Mike?
It changes, and I think I don't know if I can. I'm comfortable because I never really. I don't know if I can really, Jeff, put a percentage on it. You know what I'm saying? But not only does it change in the passing game, but it changes in the run game also. And some of the things that you're doing in more of your nickel runs, not necessarily your two back runs or two tight end type runs. So, there is a change in that. That's why it's always difficult. I mean, in a perfect world, you don't want to be going back and forth. You want to get someone in there, that you can operate on and then go ahead and build on it and go. But, obviously with the way the season's going for us and, we're not as consistent as we need to be, we're just trying to find the right game plan each week to give us a chance to win a game.
With the Baltimore Ravens, watching them on Monday night and watching their film, you watch Wink Martindale almost play different casts. I mean, he plays different packages, and he has different guys play different packages, and he's playing a lot of people on defense. How challenging is it as an offense to be able to adjust to these different looks that he's throwing at an offense?
Yeah, I think Wink does a good job as far as the personnel groupings and the different types of looks. I think that each game's a little bit different, and what they have to defend and what they have to game plan with. Depending on what they want to do with the quarterback and depending on their matchups, really. When they're healthy, they match up as well as any team in the league, being at all three levels, whether it's the first level with the defensive line and the pass rushes and defending the run, or whether it's with the linebackers and Patrick Queen, who's having a great year, or their corners with Marcus Peters, who's and Humphrey, that are banged up right now. Those guys obviously can lock people down, and the safeties, they obviously fill well and play well. I think that what you see is that if they feel that they have a huge advantage and they can pressure you and get you into bad situations where you're going to make mistakes, they're going to continue to pressure you throughout the whole game. I think that if the game gets close or it's a close football game, then all of a sudden it gets a little bit more, hey, let's be a little bit careful because we don't want to give up the big play depending on how the game's going. So, for them defensively, I think it depends a lot on, what they're doing offensively, how they're doing, how they feel they can control the game, And I think that controls a lot of the pressure of what they do.
Coach, a couple guys put on the COVID-19 reserve list this week. Ben Barch was starting at left guard for you, and Trey Herndon at cornerback added to the list as the week went along here. Well, let's start on the offensive line. Andrew Norwell back on the practice field this week. You still confident in his return?
I do feel confident. As long as nothing happens during the week, he should be ready to go, ready to play. Again, I think it's one of those stories that, Andrew, when he first had the injury, he's a tough guy. We all know that. Immediately, he wanted to come back in. He wanted to get ready to go. And I think that says a lot. We have a lot of players playing with bumps, bruises, banged up, where when the season's not going the way you want to go, very easily they can say, hey, listen, this thing's lingering and I really can't do this. But that hasn't been the case. We have a lot of players that are trying to come back to play. Andrew's one. I can tell you, in talking to Brandon Linder, how disappointed he was that he wasn't able to get healthy. He really wanted to come back and play. And that's where for me as a coach or for me as a player, or like all of us, I think there's an appreciation that you have for guys that want to come back, they want to play and go. And Andrew should be fine. And then as far as the two COVID situations, obviously the league has said we cannot comment on it. I'm not sure the situation. We'll see how the week goes with all the protocols that we have to go through to see where those two players are.
Doug, with all the protocols in the secondary, and not to be specifically talking about Trey Herndon, but your secondary, I was looking at the number today, and you have essentially 13 games played, and you've had 10 different lineups with your two corners and safeties. I mean, and if Trey, obviously something happens there, I mean, that's a lot of change, a lot of different lineup in a secondary. Do you ever recall having to deal with something like that in any of your stops, no matter what level of a coach you were?
I haven't really. I mean, college, you're not going to have that because, your roster is so large in college. So as far as my college experiences, you're not going to have that. It's interesting. We were fortunate, though. I mean, Mabin and Sidney Jones, they were guys that weren't even with us, that wound up going out there and playing and starting games for us. And, I think everyone knows it's challenging, and there's a great appreciation for those players coming in here and because they have to work twice as hard to make sure that they understand what's going on. It's not like, I think people on the outside sometimes don't realize that it's not like, okay, we're playing zone, we're playing man. There's formations, there's checks, there's a lot of things that you need to do formationally that you have to get in tune to. So players that I have a good appreciation for. Chris Claybrooks is a guy that we drafted late. That was really a surprise to us in being able to play corner. He's coming back this week. So we're excited about that. And that's another example of a player that, could have easily, he did a lot of good things for us, both on special teams and on defense, for corner, but he's coming back this week. So we're excited to see him get back in there.
Doug,
okay, Doug,
one more question about players on the team. Just sorry about that, JP. Smoot, a couple weeks ago, he's getting sacks this past game. Really, really nice play that he makes where he turns and runs and ends up forcing a fumble. And he seems to be a guy that played extremely hard, and he's playing well for you right now, and he's obviously got the opportunity. And you got to appreciate a guy like Smoot, I'm sure, with what he's given your football team.
There's no doubt. I think that, he's gotten better. I mean, when you look at the beginning of the year till now, I felt like last year he had a good year inside for us, as far as being a rusher. I think that, he's worked hard at the defensive end spot. He's been able to hold a point. We asked him to do a lot of different things for us, which, his versatility, he's smart, he's helped us. There's some good stories in there, and it's hard as a coach to go out there and tell you the good stories of, Chason has played, better these last two games and is really starting to come on for us. And, he's close to getting those sacks. I mean, he's getting the hits now that are coming. And I always thought that, the hits come and then all of a sudden the sacks come. Costa's done a good job. Daniel, guys that not a lot of people would know, that are really working their butts off, really trying to help us win.
All right, Doug, let's snap the skid this week. Now, we are not scheduled for a Doug Marrone show on Christmas Eve unless you'd like to change that. And if not, we'll talk to you again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'll be working, and you guys are the ones that changed it. So don't try to throw that on me. Thanks, JP. Try right there, buddy.
Fair enough. Head coach Doug Marrone joining us. We're back with more in just a moment. It's the Doug Marrone Show on the Jaguars Radio Network.
Whether you're driving to a Jaguars game or on the way to work, when you see flashing lights, please move over. If you can't move over a lane, slow down 20 miles per hour below the speed limit. You can protect those who help you on the road, from law enforcement and other first responders to utility and tow truck drivers. They all need you to be at the top of your game while you're driving. See lights? Please move over. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and the Florida Highway Patrol.
Jaguars fans, here's a great way to pay with pride wherever you go. Exclusively from TIAA Bank, the Jacksonville Jaguars Visa debit card comes with a fierce look and fantastic features, along with the convenience to make purchases online or at millions of locations worldwide. And it's yours, free, when you open a Yield Pledge checking account. Order yours today. Visit TIAABank.com/JagsCard. TIAA Bank is a division of TIAA, FSB, member FDIC, and the official bank of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Like working outdoors and want better pay and benefits? Superior Fence and Rail is seeking full-time fence installers with pay ranging from $16 to $25 an hour and more with commercial experience. Superior Fence and Rail will train you to work with their professional team and provide you with all the tools you need to be a top-notch installer. Get off the fence. Call Superior Fence and Rail today and start your career.
SuperiorFenceandRail.com. In Florida, bicyclists have the same rights and responsibilities as everyone else on the road. So when you ride, follow the rules. Always wear a helmet and use lights on your bike. And drivers, watch for cyclists. Give them space to ride. And don't forget, when making that right on red, look to your right first to see if a cyclist is approaching in the bike lane. We all have a responsibility to keep ourselves and each other safe. Alert today, alive tomorrow. Because safety doesn't happen by accident. This message brought to you by the Florida Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the HananiaAutos.com studio. The Doug Marrone Show continues right now.
We're back. The Doug Marrone Show rolls along. JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman. Our thanks to head coach Doug Marrone for joining us. He joins us in the first half hour every week here on the Jaguars Radio Network. A lot of turnover, a lot of change, a lot of losses, and it doesn't get easier the rest of the way here with teams that are fighting for their playoff lives, including the Ravens this week. This is one the Ravens must have. They've got to have all of them down the stretch, and they've got a dynamic offense. So all that combined, Logs, it is a tough ask this week.
Certainly, and look, even if the Jaguars were playing good football, it would be a tough ask this week against the Baltimore Ravens, the way that Lamar Jackson plays. Last year, he was the unanimous MVP in the National Football League. He had over 1,000 yards rushing, and they looked unstoppable as they were headed into the postseason, and then they got stopped and by a Tennessee team that played pretty good football. So this is a great challenge for any football team. Even if the Kansas City Chiefs, well, with the exception of probably the Kansas City Chiefs, who seem to have the Baltimore Ravens number time in and time out. But this is a great challenge, JP. And when you talk about Madden football, and you hear a lot of guys talk about it earlier, we were listening to a clip from Miles Jack, and how he talked about Madden and Lamar Jackson kind of having those skills. I mean, that's like superhuman type skills, and I wouldn't want to be Miles Jack this week. I wouldn't want to be Joe Schobert this week. I wouldn't want to be a pass rusher this week. I mean, obviously, I would like to be, because then I would be young and healthy and making good money. But
well paid.
But my point is, tough game, and he's a tough matchup for everybody.
Yeah, one little mistake, one little crease, one misstep, a hesitation is all it takes for him to find a crack, and he's gone. So there's nobody like him in the league.
You remember the Rocky movie, and you got Rocky. You know, he's out.
There's 6 of them.
And he's chasing. Yeah, well, the first one, the best one was the first one. He's chasing the chickens out in the alley or whatever, and he can't get them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Lamar Jackson is. But I mean, put a combine like a chicken and a cheetah. I mean, the guy can fly and run 20 plus miles an hour, and he's got the quickness to boot. I mean, it's a lot to ask. And the Jaguars' defensive front, if you look at them, they don't have a lot of speed, and that's a concern. When you have pass rushers on the field and you're facing a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, you'd like to have a lot of speed on the field. So can you find a way to get speed on the field to face Lamar Jackson? Well, if you're going to try to do it with the defensive line, they've got Josh Allen on IR, who's got some speed, but the guys that are playing right now, they don't have a lot of speed, and that's a major concern.
Rocky famously, when he first tried to chase that chicken logs, couldn't get to it and said, quote, "I feel like a Kentucky Fried Idiot." We'll come back in a moment and see what the Jaguars offense can do against the Ravens. It's the Doug Marrone Show on Jaguars Radio.
Coach Doug Marrone here, reminding all our Jaguar fans, don't fumble when it comes to driving. One text takes your eyes off the road for 5 seconds. And at 55 miles per hour, that's like driving the entire length of a football field with your eyes closed. To win while driving, you must focus. Keep your hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, and mind on driving. Put it down. Focus on driving. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and the Florida Highway Patrol.
You won't find a better deal to keep your ride clean than Scrubble's Flexible Service Car Wash. Start in the tunnel wash and experience state-of-the-art equipment while enjoying a soapy light show. Our quality soaps and solutions keep your vehicle streak-free. Every 3-minute car wash package comes with self-serve vacuuming, lint-free towels, window cleaner, and a free air freshener. Visit us at the St. John's Town Center, Fleming Island, and Atlantic Beach. And coming soon to Kernan and Atlantic. Trust the bow tie. You'll know quality once you arrive. Go Jags!
The wait for the holidays is over, America. It's time to make some joy. And we're here to help with the Ford Built for the Holidays sales event. We're offering the best deals of the season across the Ford lineup, so you can road trip with the whole family comfortably in a Ford Expedition. Bring home a tree that's bigger than you ever have with a built Ford Tough F-150. And find new ways to make the holidays bright this year when you visit your local Ford dealer. The joy is up to you, America, so let's get to it. Ford, built for the holidays.
Jaguars fans, game day is back, and while it might look a little different this year, the good times, smooth drinks, and tailgate excitement will never change when you're cheering on the Jags with Jameson. So pull up a seat, pour a smooth Jameson, ginger, and lime, and enjoy game day with Jameson. Taste responsibly. Jameson Irish Whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume, 80 proof. Product of Ireland. Copyright 2020. Imported by John Jameson Import Company, New York, New York.
Welcome back to the HananiaAutos.com studio. The Doug Marrone Show continues right now.
Welcome back to the Doug Marrone Show. JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman. Our head coach Doug Marrone joins us in the first half hour every week. We thank him for his time. Minshew Mania is back. Gardner Minshew will make the start for the Jags at quarterback this Sunday. Logs, first time since week 7. He had the thumb issue then, apparently for a few weeks. And they found out during the bye week officially, and it's been Jake Luton since then. It's been Mike Lennon until the third quarter of last week's game. And Minshew came in, and now Gardner Minshew will start again. What can we expect from Gardner now in week 15?
Well, I think probably something along the lines of what we saw this past week, to where he can make some things happen, getting out of the pocket, that you don't see a high completion rate down the field unless it's a go route, where he does a pretty good job with that. So I think he's going to create some excitement. I think he might give the Jaguars a boost, but I think this is going to be a challenging game for him too, because when we watched him play, and if you look at the numbers were just okay, but then there wasn't a whole lot of rhythm to what he was doing. And as a quarterback, you find a rhythm by playing, and it's been a while since he's played, and it's been a while since he's played well. So I think it's going to be a work in progress. And I think the offense has got to support him, and you got to support him with a strong running game. And James Robinson is not that far away from breaking the undrafted rookie rushing record, and I hope he gets it. I know Dominic Rhodes has the record. I got the number right here, JP. He only needs 70 yards for the undrafted rookie record in NFL history, and obviously he needs a few more yards to break Fred Taylor's all-time, the Jaguars rookie rushing records, and I think that's 188 total yards. So look, one big day against the Ravens, not likely, but he could end up breaking Freddie T's record.
Well, I have no doubt that James is going to get there before the season is out, the way he's been running. If it's not this week, he'll break Fred's record at some point.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, he's been really good. I thought he missed some things this past week. And early in the game, we kept seeing the Titans kind of stack him up, and he had a couple tackles or he was tackled for a loss on a couple occasions, and going into the game, he only had, I think, 11 rushes for minus yardage, so it was a little out of character there. And watching the film, I thought James wasn't quite at what I've seen or would label his best. He missed a couple cuts, and one play in particular, he didn't run really to where the design of the play was. He kind of cuts it back to the right, and which is a little out of character for him. Last week he was a little bit banged up. You wonder if that kind of had an impact on it. But I want to see him get back to running clean. You know, in the second half, he was marvelous. Or marvelous for the circumstance. And so if he can start out that way against the Ravens, it would be a big boost to the Jaguars offensively and to a quarterback who hasn't had a ton of snaps lately.
He's just been so consistent all year, and we can carve up his season all types of different ways, but it really comes down to not many negative runs, not many long runs, just effective running football from James Robinson, and it hasn't really changed week to week. Last week was the first week he had some issues a little bit, but that was not even, I mean, he had a long run. His longest run of the year was in the fourth quarter of that game last week of 46 yards. So nothing, no home run balls. There's nothing really behind the line. He's just effective.
Yeah, and if he can get out to a good start, that keeps Lamar Jackson and the stable of running backs that the Ravens have. It keeps them on the sideline. So, but the Ravens, look, the Ravens gave up a ton of yards to the Cleveland Browns. And the Cleveland Browns are a pretty good offense. They got two really good running backs and a quarterback who hasn't been that hot, but he got hot against the Ravens on Monday Night Football. The Jaguars are catching a football team that's on a short week. They've had a lot of drama if you go back to some of the COVID issues that they've had. So is this going to be a tired team playing on a short week that might have a letdown? I don't think so. John Harbaugh, I think, is one of the best coaches in the National Football League. He's been incredibly consistent. He continues to win, and it doesn't really matter what the players are and who the quarterback is. He's done a really good job of winning throughout. So this is a challenging game, and I know that there's not going to be any fans at, M&T Bank Stadium, but that's their home, and they've been wildly successful at their place.
Let's come back in a moment. A little more ahead on this Jaguars-Ravens matchup this Sunday at M&T Bank Stadium on the Inner Harbor in Baltimore. And this is the Doug Marrone Show on the Jaguars Radio Network.
Whether you're driving to a Jaguars game or on the way to work, when you see flashing lights, please move over. If you can't move over a lane, slow down 20 miles per hour below the speed limit. You can protect those who help you on the road, from law enforcement and other first responders to utility and tow truck drivers. They all need you to be at the top of your game while you're driving. See lights? Please move over. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and the Florida Highway Patrol.
At ViStar, we believe in better convenience, so members can bank any way they want. Whether it's at a branch, on a mobile device, or at one of more than 20,000 fee-free ATMs across North America, we believe that people have better things to do with their time. If you believe that convenience is better, join ViStar. We never forget that it's your money. All loans subject to approval, insured by NCUA.
Superior Fence and Rail knows about commercial fence services, from automatic gates to security fence and railing. Superior Fence and Rail's professional team delivers with great communication, trained installers, and quality products. Trust your next commercial project with the top-rated fence company in Jacksonville. Get off the fence and call Superior Fence and Rail for your commercial project today.
SuperiorFenceandRail.com. This football season, prepare your taste buds for the most iconic sports-watching drink of all time, Pepsi. With refreshing deliciousness specially formulated to keep your eye on the ball and mouth-watering fizziness to help you power through game day, Pepsi has everything you need to start strong.
I used to care when Mike cheered so hard he spilled nacho cheese on my carpet, but thanks to Pepsi, even Mike can't ruin my football party.
So this football season, make Pepsi your go-to game day drink because it's the only drink made for football watching. Pepsi, that's what I like.
Dreamfinders Homes has a simple commitment to their home buyers. Deliver unsurpassed quality, uncompromising value, and an extraordinary level of customization you simply won't find with other home builders. With over 40 communities to choose from, you'll find a location you love and the home of your dreams. Dreamfinders has townhomes, single-family homes, and custom estate homes starting from the high 100s and a wide selection of move-in ready homes. Quality, value, customization. That's the Dreamfinders difference. Call 904-738-0165 or online at dreamfindershomes.com. Dreamfinders Homes, the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Prices subject to change without notice. Equal housing opportunity.
In Florida, bicyclists have the same rights and responsibilities as everyone else on the road. So when you ride, follow the rules. Always wear a helmet and use lights on your bike. And drivers, watch for cyclists. Give them space to ride. And don't forget, when making that right on red, look to your right first to see if a cyclist is approaching in the bike lane. We all have a responsibility to keep ourselves and each other safe. Alert today, alive tomorrow. Because safety doesn't happen by accident. This message brought to you by the Florida Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the HananiaAutos.com studio. The Doug Marrone Show continues right now.
Welcome back. The Doug Marrone Show rolls along. In Week 15, the Jaguars and the Baltimore Ravens coming up this Sunday at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. The Ravens are just out of the playoff picture right now. They're right there in the hunt, though. They have to win down the stretch, and that'll get them into the playoffs. They've got a favorable schedule ahead, by the way, to try to get that done. The Ravens, as they sit currently, Logs, are 8-5. They are 8th right now. So the top 7 go into the playoffs. So the as it sits right now, the wild cards are Cleveland at 9-4, Indy at 9-4, Miami at 8-5. Currently, Baltimore is 8-5, just out right now. Vegas at 7-6, and then New England would need a lot of help at 6-7. So hey, for the Ravens, as you just mentioned, there will not be any letdown at all because they are up against it and they have to win these football games.
Certainly, and you expect them to play well. Again, they play in a tough division. Them and Pittsburgh seem to have been battling back and forth in that division for a long period of time, and they can play a real physical brand of football when they need to. And so, yeah, they're going to get their A game. I don't think there's any doubt. And Lamar Jackson obviously is going to be another week removed from COVID. So I hate to say this, but he's going to be fresher, even more fresh than he was on Monday night. And I'm sure that they've given him plenty of rest this week with the cramps that he was suffering from Monday. So a challenging game. And JP, this is the games, though, you like to play in. I mean, even if you're on a 12-game losing streak for the Jaguars, this is what you want. I mean, this is challenging teams, good football teams, and teams that need to win to keep in. I mean, for me, that's what I always like. And I mean, give me the best team. Give me the teams that are playing hot. Give me a quarterback that's a great challenge. But I wish he wasn't quite as fast as he was if I was playing. But nonetheless, I mean, that's what it is. And you tell everybody that's playing, man, make sure you don't tape your ankles up too much. You got to make sure you stay light. You kind of downsize some of your pads in this game because you know you're going to be running a lot. Make sure you don't have a whole lot of extra pads and you don't have a lot of layers on to keep your body flexible and limber.
It will be 44 degrees at kickoff, Logs. You got to wear something.
I don't, JP. You're gonna have enough body warmth chasing Lamar Jackson around, so you're not going to need a whole lot of layers. The one thing I will tell you, there's a little secret when you play in cold weather. If you put like a real thin layer of Vaseline on, it kind of gives you actually it's like wearing an extra layer of clothing. And if you rub it in real good, it's not really detectable, but in the game when you start to sweat and you're staying a little warm because you got a little bit of that petroleum jelly on you, when the opponent goes and starts to grab you, he gets a little bit of that petroleum jelly on his hands. It's harder for him to hold you. So you kind of got to be a little sneaky about it, so you make sure you don't get caught, because if you get caught, then you get a big fine.
The comments of Jeff Lageman do not reflect on the Jacksonville Jaguars Football Club as an organization, just for the record.
Look, there's nothing wrong with trying to keep yourself warm, JP. It's just, it's a, what's the right proper term here? It's about taking care of player safety. And player safety and health is making sure that you don't expose yourself to any cold conditions to risk any type of frostbite.
Let's come back in a moment, shall we? We'll get our final thoughts for this Jaguars-Ravens matchup in Week 15. This is the Doug Marrone Show on Jaguars Radio.
Coach Doug Marrone here, reminding all our Jaguar fans, don't fumble when it comes to driving. One text takes your eyes off the road for 5 seconds. And at 55 miles per hour, that's like driving the entire length of a football field with your eyes closed. To win while driving, you must focus. Keep your hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, and mind on driving. Put it down. Focus on driving. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and the Florida Highway Patrol.
In Florida, bicyclists have the same rights and responsibilities as everyone else on the road. So when you ride, follow the rules. Always wear a helmet and use lights on your bike. And drivers, watch for cyclists. Give them space to ride. And don't forget, when making that right on red, look to your right first to see if a cyclist is approaching in the bike lane. We all have a responsibility to keep ourselves and each other safe. Alert today, alive tomorrow. Because safety doesn't happen by accident. This message brought to you by the Florida Department of Transportation.
This football season, prepare your taste buds for the most iconic sports watching drink of all time, Pepsi. With refreshing deliciousness specially formulated to keep your eye on the ball and mouth-watering fizziness to help you power through game day, Pepsi has everything you need to start strong.
I used to care when Mike cheered so hard he spilled nacho cheese on my carpet, but thanks to Pepsi, even Mike can't ruin my football party.
So this football season, make Pepsi your go-to game day drink, because it's the only drink made for football watching. Pepsi, that's what I like.
Oi. Bonjour.
Xin chào.
Добрый день.
كيف فينا نساعدكم?
¿Cómo te podemos ayudar?
If you have an accident, the last thing you should have to worry about is a language barrier. That's why at Farah & Farah, we have a team as diverse as our clients. So no matter what language you speak, we'll fight for your voice. Farah & Farah, here for you.
نحن هون للكل.
Ici pour vous.
Aquí para todos.
Here for all. Jacksonville.
Any repeated physical activity puts stress on the body. Checking your phone, getting in the car, sitting at your desk, checking the phone, getting in your car, sitting at your desk, checking your phone for the 50th time today. If you do anything with regularity, you should get massaged with regularity. Massage Envy. Keep your body working.
Regular body work makes the body work with massage, skincare, and stretch. Come in today for more information or visit massageenvy.com for more details.
Jaguars fans, game day is back, and while it might look a little different this year, the good times, smooth drinks, and tailgate excitement will never change when you're cheering on the Jags with Jameson. So pull up a seat, pour a smooth Jameson, ginger, and lime, and enjoy game day with Jameson. Taste responsibly. Jameson Irish Whiskey. 40% alcohol by volume. 80 proof. Product of Ireland. Copyright 2020. Imported by John Jameson Import Company. New York, New York.
Welcome back to the HananiaAutos.com studio. The Doug Marrone Show continues right now.
Welcome back to Doug Marrone Show. Wrapping up, JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman, the Jags and the Ravens coming up Sunday. And I found it interesting today. Miles Jack spoke with the media, today. And he hears the noise around town about this team and the future, and there's already been a change of the general manager position, and who knows what happens down the stretch here, and who knows who's playing for this team next year. Miles said he's turned off his social media for the most part, except his Facebook page. His Twitter and Instagram are off. He don't want to hear it. But he still hears it. And everybody, if he stops to get gas somewhere in his car, they're asking about Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and what's going to happen in the future. Well, when you're in that locker room and on that field Sunday, there's no worrying about all that. You're out to try to snap this losing skid and try to get this 2020 team into the win column at some point before the end of the season.
Yes, but at the same token, JP, these guys are human, and they want to see what the future holds because they're a part of it. And so these guys have a vested interest in what happens in the future. So even though they want to dial it out and tune it off, I mean, you do because you just kind of get tired of hearing the questions. But at the same token, the players are curious too. What's going to happen? Who are the Jaguars going to hire as a general manager? What's going to happen when they hire a general manager? Are they going to fire the coaching staff? Are they going to hire a new coach? I mean, all these things are legitimate questions that the fan base certainly wants to see and to understand and to guesstimate about what's going to happen. And the players are no different. So, but they can say that they tune it out all they want. But in fact, quietly, they are like this, JP. Oh, that's the rumor. Oh, really? Wow.
On the
now, they
phone,
may say they're not on it, okay? But, JP, that little thing right here in my hand, that phone, it's hard to turn it off.
It's amazing how that has changed everything, obviously, over the years. It's at everybody's fingertips now. And you can put an opinion about what the Jaguars should do out in a moment's notice as well, and everybody can see it. It's changed everything. And it's changed the way players and everybody sees it, obviously.
Sure,
so
it's just
this
changed
week,
everything, and that's just the way it is.
Yep, that's how it is, and this is how it is this week. The Jaguars get the Baltimore Ravens in Week 15, a team right there on the cusp of playoff material. They're right behind in the wild card race right now and just out as it stands today. They've battled COVID issues recently. They won a big football game on Monday night to kind of keep them going. They have to win. The Jaguars are trying to snap this 12-game skid, and they'll do it. They'll try to do it against a couple of former guys, former Jaguars now for the Ravens. Calais Campbell, who's been on the injury report this week, has not practiced the last 2 days, Wednesday or today, with a calf issue. He had some COVID issues as well. And Yannick Ngakoue is over there too. Two familiar faces for the Jags this week.
Yeah, and I think both guys can be marvelous players, but from what I saw on film the last couple games, and then the Monday night game in particular, I don't think either one of them is playing at a real high level. Calais looks like he's hurt, which he is, obviously, because he's on the injury report with a calf, and then he's getting over COVID still, even though he is off the COVID list. And you could tell that he just doesn't have the power. And then Ngakoue just doesn't look like he's got the intensity quite going. But I'm sure that he's going to find it this week because you talk about a guy that was very angry with the Jaguars and the departure. Yeah, Ngakoue wasn't in the same category of like a Boye or a Calais Campbell, and it's like, hey, all love and kisses, goodbye to the franchise. It was kind of the middle finger goodbye.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was not a pretty ending here but the Jaguars did get some draft capital in return. So they'll see them face-to-face this week. What do you have in All Access tonight? Quickly, Logs.
Well, we got the lovely Brent Martineau, and we were going to talk to Josh Allen, and obviously with the return of the Jaguars, should I say, the facing a couple former teammates, we'll talk to Josh about that. In the film room, we're going to look at Lamar Jackson and how the read option stuff can be so challenging. And so looking forward to it, JP.
Tonight on Fox 30 at 7 o'clock on television here in Jacksonville. Our thanks to head coach Doug Marrone, Joe Fortunato, Brent Reber back in the studio. For Jeff Lageman, I'm JP Shadrick. We'll catch you in 2 weeks. No Doug Marrone show next week. We'll see you in 2 weeks. It's the Doug Marrone Show on the Jaguars Radio Network.